This is ESBR Boxing. Delighted to be joined by Paul Kelly, and in this video we are discussing our fights of the year. Paul, thank you for joining me. This is going to be a quick, sharpish video, but interested to see what your fight of the year is. One thing about this one is we're doing two each. So one that's happened inside the UK, one that's happened outside of the UK. Paul, thank you for joining me. There's been a lot of boxing this year. There's been a lot of fights to pick from. But yeah, looking forward to hearing from you on this one.
Yeah, thanks, Elliot. I'm excited for this video. There's been some absolute crackers both in the UK and around the world this year. So yeah, I'm sure I'm excited to hear yours as well.
Definitely. Well, we're not going to go to kind of too super in depth. We'll just kind of see where the video takes us. But yeah, we'll get things kicked off with yourself. What is your fight of the year that's happened inside the UK on this for this year?
Yeah, so this is I found this my trickiest one to pick. Out of all of the videos that we have done and we're gonna be doing, I found this one quite tricky to pick, and I've gone back to July, and I've gone for the cruiserweight contest between Chris Billam-Smith and Isaac Chamberlain. A lot of people might disagree with that, but in terms of the magnitude of the fight, it's for the Commonwealth title. As well as another belt on the line for a high world ranking. It was a main event, first big kind of homecoming fight for Chris Billam-Smith in Bournemouth. I know ESBR, we were there as well, and it was just I think a lot of people didn't expect the fight to go the way it did. Kind of both of them at the end of the day just forgot about tactics, forgot about boxing, and just kind of traded in a phone box, I'd say, for quite a good bit of it. It was all the state of Isaac Chamberlain's face after, he fractured his orbital bone and stuff. And then Billam-Smith too took some massive shots. So yeah, I've gone for that one. If you look at it on paper, it was a unanimous decision win, and it looks wide for Billam-Smith. I think it was a little bit closer than that. Fair enough. I think Billam-Smith, he was the rightful winner, but I think it was a wee bit closer than that. But it was nip and tuck. Both fighters had success during the fight, and yeah, that's been my fight of the year. But I'll just quickly special mention to Tyler Denny and Bradley Ray, because I think that was a fantastic fight last month. A lot of people, I know on commentary at the time, Andy Clark and Sky were saying this is one of the fights of the year in the British ring, so I just thought I'd mention that as well. But yeah, Billam-Smith, Isaac Chamberlain is my UK fight of the year for 2022.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I liked about the fight was it was one of, if I'm being honest, it's one of the few fights this year in the UK where there's been a top class atmosphere. In terms of boxing was back in Bournemouth for the first time in ever, maybe. I'm not sure when there's been kind of a big fight in Bournemouth before, and you could tell the Bournemouth fans really appreciated it as well. I was there. I wasn't there on the night, but I was there for the press conference and the weigh-in, and the amount of people who turned up there was a press conference on the beach. Weigh-in was on the beach as well, and the amount of people who turned up for those events was just fantastic, to be honest. Was really impressive. So that kind of added to it, and the fact that it was a good fight as well really just really did a lot, to be honest. And I feel like, as you said, there was a lot on the line as well, and it's one of those where maybe not next year, but in 2 or 3 years' time, it would be fun to see a rematch.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with everything you said. They're definitely a good fight, and hopefully we'll get it again in a few years' time for a world title. Maybe, you never know.
Yeah, and finally for me, it's one of those fights where it's a good example of both fighters' stock going up. Like Chris Billam-Smith obviously won the fight. He looks like he's going to fight for a world title next year after his win last weekend. And Isaac Chamberlain lost, but he's proven he can compete, and he's on that level now. And I feel like Isaac Chamberlain, in my opinion, this time next year, we'll be talking to him. We could be talking of him as a genuine top 10 cruiserweight. I really believe that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I 100% agree, which probably comes as no shock to you because he's one of my favorite fighters. But yeah, I do agree. I do agree with what you're saying.
See what happens in 2024. Cool. I will go next. My fight of the year might come to as a surprise for some people, maybe a bit controversial. I think the fact that I was lucky enough to be there plays a part in it as well. And I'm going for the shock factor on this one. Daniel Dubois on Kevin Lerena, which is on the undercard of Tyson Fury versus Derek Chisora. Part of it is as well is that we knew everyone knew what was going to happen in the main event. So the fact we got a really exciting co-main event kind of added to it for me. For those that don't know, Kevin Lerena went in as the serious underdog. I think he was 20-1 to win by KO, maybe. He knocked Daniel Dubois 3 times in the first round, which I don't think anybody would have seen that coming, even Kevin Lerena himself, if we're being honest. And it looks like one of Britain's biggest prospects, someone who could be fighting for a world title in the next 12 months. Looks like they were going to lose and they were going to have to kind of start from square one. From my memory, kind of Dubois kind of steadied himself in the second round, probably lost the second round, but again, that round was about not getting stopped. And then the third round, just came back into the fight, knocked Lerena down, and Howard Foster kind of saw enough right at the end of the third round and called the fight off. I know there was a bit of controversy where he was kind of called it off after the bell went, but in my opinion, there was no doubt kind of Kevin Lerena was done in that fight, and I think that if that fight had gone into a fourth round, I really do think Dubois would have kind of knocked him unconscious then, to be honest. I really do. But yeah, that's mine. Interested to see your thoughts and if you're going to slag my fight of the year off or not.
I think you have definitely gone rogue there. But I can, you know what, when you talk about it like that, yes, it was only 3 rounds, but in 3 rounds, there's 4 knockdowns, one a complete swing, and complete turn of events as well within 9 minutes. And the fact that you said you were there, obviously, I think probably helps as well. Heavyweights, you always love a big heavyweight.
Yeah,
dust up as well. So you know what, I'm not gonna call you deluded for that one. I can see why you've picked that.
Yeah, and it comes down to expectations as well. A lot of people thought that it was just going to be a straightforward win for Daniel Dubois, and it wasn't. Whereas if you look at, I could pick Chocolatito versus Estrada, and you know what you're getting. You know it's going to be a great fight. You know it's probably going to go the distance. You know it's probably going to be close. But for this one, it was about expectations versus what actually happened, and I feel like we got a lot more than we bargained for. And as I said, it kind of brightened up what was kind of a fairly predictable evening when it came to the main event. So that, yeah, like, is it really the best? Am I expecting everyone to agree with me on this one? No, but we're all here. We're all here to be entertained, and that fight did entertain for me 100%.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
not gonna knock you for that.
Moving on, non-UK. What is your fight of the year that did not happen in the UK, Paul?
Yeah, so this one, I think a lot of people will have agreed with me here. It's Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano at Madison Square Garden on April 30th. I mean, I don't even really need to talk about this a whole lot. Kind of, if just go and watch it. If you haven't seen it already and you're watching this video, just go on YouTube and spare half an hour or whatever and watch that fight, because it was absolutely incredible. I'd say definitely the best women's fight I've ever seen. Arguably one of the best fights I've ever seen, regardless of gender. It was just unbelievable, and the fact that, from a UK and Irish boxing perspective, everyone wanted Katie Taylor to win. I don't think you can't hate Katie Taylor, can you really? And in fact, she did it. A lot of people actually thought Serrano was gonna win. The fact she did it, although it was by split decision as well, it shows you how close the fight was. Just from minute 1 right until the end, it was absolutely incredible. And I, for one, I'm hoping that in 2023 we see the rematch, whether that be at Croke Park, and hopefully I could be there in attendance myself, or whether it be someone else for Katie Taylor, or I'm not too sure, but I just hope we get another one, because that fight definitely deserves another 10 rounds, I suppose, as it is. But yeah, that for me is the one that stole the show as my fight of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was well worth staying up until 3-4 in the morning for. I think just the fact to see women's boxing on that sort of stage, with the amount of people talking about it, Madison Square Garden, and I just think it was one of those where, again, like, I go back to expectations versus reality. This lived up. I think this went actually beyond expectations. People thought it was going to be a good fight, but actually it was an outstanding fight. It was a fight of the year contender. And I think one thing that stands out for me in that fight was the fact that Katie Taylor kind of got rocked really bad, got quite badly round 4 or 5. I'm going to say, and then the way she came back and won the fight as well. Yeah, the only thing I would add is that we need to see a rematch because it was an incredibly close fight. I do believe that a draw would have been fair. I had Katie Taylor winning personally, but I think a draw would have been fair. Some people had Serrano winning. And when you have a fight that is that close, you need to see. I want to see a rematch, and the rematch has to happen next year. Katie Taylor's 35, I believe. I don't think she's got many fights left. 2024, it could be too late for that rematch to happen. So I don't see why, why we can't see that rematch, as you mentioned, in Croke Park, April, May time next year. And that's really what I'm hoping for. I think it could be fight of the year 2023.
Yeah, I echo everything you've said there, Elliot. I just want to say it again, and hopefully, if it is to be Croke Park in the summertime or whatever, fingers crossed, I get the train down there and and be in attendance for it. And hopefully, yeah, we're sitting here next year, and I'm telling you that it's fight of the year for 2023 as well, and that I was there.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed. Cool. Non-UK fight of the year. Again, going with a bit of a rogue option here. A fight that really stands out for me is Dimitri Bivol versus Canelo Alvarez at light heavyweight. Happened earlier this year. As we know, Dimitri Bivol went in there as the underdog. Some people were picking him to win, but he was, like, whether people like it or not, he was the underdog. And Canelo Alvarez went in there as pound for pound number one, went on a fantastic winning streak at super middleweight. And I think a lot of people just thought he was going to go up in weight and continue this winning streak. But he came up against an elite fighter, an undefeated fighter, a genuine world champion, a pound for pound top 10 fighter. And yeah, Canelo made his match. And I'm not saying that was great to see, but it was great to see someone who was just able to handle him as the way that Bivol was able to. And yeah, I'm not here dying to see the rematch personally, but it was an incredibly high profile fight, and it was a fight that a lot of people had strong opinions on. And I just think, yeah, the way Bivol kind of just handled Canelo in the fashion that he did throughout the 12 rounds, wasn't ever in serious trouble. Yeah, that makes it kind of my fight of the year, just because of how good Bivol's performance was and the upset it was. It really wasn't what people expected.
I'll back you on that one, because obviously I'm not a huge Canelo Alvarez fan, so to see him get beat made my day. But no, in all seriousness, Bivol, he was almost punch perfect really in that fight. I know the judges had it a lot closer, but it wasn't that close. It was almost a shutout nearly from Bivol. The fact that it was an upset, the fact that it involved, a pound for pound number one, this massive big superstar that's almost unbeatable. Then we saw the shock. Yeah, you know what? I think that's a worthy fight of the year, although maybe not as action packed in the sense of, two fighters standing there slugging it out in the middle of the ring. Well, no, not like that. I completely understand your selection.
Yeah, look, maybe I'll get a bit of stick about it, but that's okay. But just for me, I went in there thinking Canelo was going to win. Wouldn't be an easy fight, but I did think Canelo was going to be able to pull it off. And yeah, if we were discussing performance of the year, for me, it's Bivol without a doubt, personally. And yeah, that's it really. I think that's wound things up fairly nicely. But yeah, it's been good to talk to you about this, Paul. Please, if you're watching this video, please comment with your fight of the year below. There are some other great fights that we've missed that we've not mentioned here. We were only allowed 2 picks each, otherwise we kind of be here all night. Paul, thank you for joining me. It's been a great year of fantastic fights, and yeah, hoping to be here in 12 months' time discussing more good fights with you over the course of 2023.
Yes, mate, really enjoyed that. Thanks a million.